Dear Berlinale guests, dear followers, happy to be with you for this Berlinale Meets. Happy to introduce to you the film Unrest, Unrueh, and the filmmaker of the film, Cyril Schäublin, and the leading actor, Clara Gostynski. I hope I pronounce it well, otherwise you will correct me. Welcome.
Hi. Nice to be here.
So is it right, or how is the right way to pronounce your name?
It's Gostynski.
Gostynski. Okay. And where does it come from?
From Poland.
From Poland. So not from Russia, because
No.
but there is some kind of Eastern Europe in your origin.
Yes.
The film is about a specific place in Switzerland, but it's also about the journey. There is the journey element of the other leading actor, a cartographer character moving from Russia exactly to the Switzerland, but also inside the film there is a journey, not only of the character of Clara, but it's also a lot of movement in the film. So I would like to ask you, Cyril, as a starting point, how do you construct the story? What was the starting point? Is it based on real fact, or the story takes place, we have to say, the story takes place a while ago in the past?
Yeah, the year is 1877 when it takes place, and the beginning of the story, if there is something like that, was surely that I come from a watchmaker family, like Clara as well. She has watchmakers in her Swiss family background. And so, yeah, my grandmother and my grand aunts and also my great-grandmother, they were working in a watch factory in Switzerland and producing this Unrueh piece, this center, or they called it the heart of the watch. And so this, struck me already a while ago that they were actually spending their lives doing this. And then the second thing that happened was that I came across the writings of Piotr Kropotkin. And when I found out that he became an anarchist when he spent time in Switzerland, in this watchmaking valley, I thought I want to bind these two elements together and make a film out of it. And then things started their way.
Clara, without invading the film, towards the end, there is a very nice moment where you explain what is the Unrueh, the unrest, which made me think a little bit also about the work of an actor, because an actor also works on a very little balance between, in your case, I think that's the question, between the material that is given to you, dialogue, dress, and the thing that you have to put. And you have to find always like the Unrueh, the right balance with otherwise the things go wrong and either gonna stop or find not the right rhythm. So how did you work with
Yeah, it's actually an interesting question, because I actually am not an actor, not professionally, but I'm a trained architect. And for preparation, I had several sessions with a watchmaker, Elio. She's also participating in the movie. And it was interesting because she started explaining me how this unrest works, which was really hard for me to understand. And by actually looking at plans, at technical drawings, we suddenly really matched. And it was at some point very understandable for me. Or, I mean, I never really understood completely how all of it works, but I got a bit into the matter by just looking at sections and technical drawings. And through this, I was really capable of getting into this matter. And by this, it was at some point possible for me to
kind of grasp it, yeah.
Yes, to grasp it and to tell what I read in these plans.
Yeah, but it's funny because, I mean, me coming from this family who actually did the job, I think I still could not explain it the way that Clara got to explain it.
Cyril, John Ford was famous because he put 1/5 of the screen with people and land, and 5, and the rest was empty space. I don't think John Ford is a reference for your movie, but you work with the emptiness in a very similar way for maybe achieving another result. So I would like to ask you something about the framing, which is something also that we found in your previous work here in a different way, but you have always a special way of framing which make the viewer think, why it's so.
Yeah, this is very interesting. The last thing that you've just said, like, why is it so? I think with my last film that was set in the present or the close future, that thing or that question had a different association. But especially with the historical film, it was really important for me that it's obvious that it is a filmic construction, that it's not, that we're not trying to show something how it really was or something, that it's really obvious that it is a construction of a past or of certain situations. So yeah, so this kind of steady framing really helped. For me, it really helped me to.
Did he help the actor?
Get there.
Did they help the actor? Did they know that sometimes they were just a small figure in a big empty frame or not?
It was extremely funny. We never knew how the image would be set. I had no idea if my head was in the image or my feet.
And we were so far away. I mean, I had to run, in order to talk to the people. I was on a walkie-talkie, or I had to run like for 1 minute to get to the point, because we were like 300 meters away mostly. Like, although the shots are quite wide and give a lot of space, we were shooting with a long lens. So yeah, we were extremely long way from what happened.
So you are both Swiss, if I got it right, and the film is really about Swissness. It's about time. It's about time is money, time is punctuality. It's also about something that I have experienced in Switzerland, and I think this is also an interesting take from your point of view on. There is a kind of sweet cruelty sometimes, especially in the relation with authority. I'm referring to the character of the two, let's call it policemen, to let the audience understand. But in general, people are forced to do things, but always in a very gentle way. I don't know how much you wanted to talk about Switzerland nowadays, the relation with foreigners or things like that. And in general about the authority, because this is also something that was present in your previous work. Yeah.
I don't really know if this is just a Swiss thing. Probably it is, but I see this elsewhere as well. I think that this kind of capitalist ruling, that is really defining our life from the beginning of early industrial capitalism until today. I'm talking about like time discipline, that you have, like what we're doing right now, that we meet exactly at 3:30 and we are there at that moment. And I think that these kind of rules, also this idea that time is money and so on, they are working so well, also because the way they are executed, I mean, it's kind of, it's so powerful and so brutal in many ways, because it has such an impact on our lives. But the way this executed seems quite soft to me, at least. People mostly accept the situation that they are in, and they go and get money out of the machine, they buy their ticket. The faster we are, the cheaper your ticket is, and all these things. We do it. We go along with this flow, and I think that by showing certain situations, maybe that it's like an accentuation of this brutality, but I think it's even more brutal when it's so soft.
Absolutely, no, I totally
the same,
agree.
or the same thing with the character of the factory director in the film. I mean, when I've asked my grandmother or my family, which is still alive, which worked in the watch factories, and I've asked them, how was your relationship to the boss, to the factory director? They all said to me, yeah, he was such a sweet, caring person, and so on. You know, he took care of us and all these things. And I think this is similar with most factory directors, factory owners of the 20th and 19th century. They had this sort of caritative kind of impulse. But nonetheless, I mean, my family who worked in that watch factory, they earned like 70 or 80 times less than this person. And they've accepted it, you know, like they accepted this soft power aggression.
Yeah. Film cinema, the cinematograph was born out of photography. In your film, you have two different people taking photograph. You can take photograph to put things on the map and certify what exists and what existed, but also you can take photograph of people, which I think it's even more interesting, the character. So how these pictures are real, but became something bigger, smaller, something different. So maybe you can tell something about that too, or?
Yeah, sure. Well, we had an historical advisor for the project who was really important for the work on the film, Florian Eitel. And he published a book, which will be translated in French, by the way, this summer. And about
But it's in German, right?
It's in German, yeah.
So you can tell, because the listener, they mostly
it's called Anarchistische Uhrmacher. It's called Anarchistische Uhrmacher in der Schweiz im 19. Jahrhundert. Clara also read it, and you can download it for free. By the way, it's an open link in the internet. And in that book, I mean, he with like micro-historic approaches, he did a study of this watchmaking valley and the anarchist movement in the second half of the 19th century. And the role of photography was really important for him in the book because, I mean, first of all, it's quite interesting, I think, that, I mean, suddenly in the 1860s, it was possible to make a photo portrait or to pay a photo portrait for a half day's wage for a usual working person in Europe. So it was quite affordable to make your own picture. And then he describes in the book how this became like a market of portraits. And of course, famous people like Sarah Bernhardt or the English Crown Prince were very popular, and people bought them and carried them around in their pockets or at home, or I don't know what they were doing with them. And the anarchists, they also took advantage of this technology by flowing in their portraits of martyrs, but also just thinkers like Kropotkin or Louis Michel, the French anarchist. And yeah, I think this is interesting.
The film used different languages. This is part of Switzerland, where you can ask one question in German and they can reply in French or in Romansh or in Italian. But it's also, I think, a deliberate choice by the film to mix the languages, to give a kind of internationality. I don't know. Was it a challenge to do it, Clara, for you? I mean, as a representative of the Actors Guild of the film, not Professional Actors Guild?
I think it felt very natural because probably half of the cast was French speaking and the other half was German speaking. And then there were a few of us, like me, for example, who used both of the languages, but it happens very naturally that you speak with one person one language and with the other one the other language. So this was kind of part of the set also with the whole crew, where parts of them were speaking French, and so it was actually part of the whole working process.
Yeah, I think it's important to point out that especially that valley where the film takes place is in a bilingual setting where people really they speak both. They speak Swiss German, Bernese dialect, and French, like same. And I thought that was interesting also for the film because. The film also shows the beginning not only of the anarchist movement, but also of the national state idea, which was really strong at that time. And I think it's funny that Switzerland, like Germany or France or Italy by the time, or other European countries really started to build this idea of a nation and that we are, this national identity and so on. But in Switzerland, it seems also a bit kind of more absurd because there are clearly different languages that people were speaking to each other. So there is not an identity like the French identity or the German identity with one language, but a mix in between. So it makes this nationalist construction even a bit more, I don't want to say ridiculous, but fragwürdig, questionable.
But this little village is also seen as a very international one. People connect with Baltimore or China, they do speak English, so you also give something that is not usually portrayed in a period movie, which is, I think it's interesting. I would like to close with the last question, which is related to color. The film deals with some, not primary color, but deals with color that are really overwhelming, the green especially. So can you tell us something about that? Because I think in part is to overcome the production issue, but it's also an aesthetic choice, I guess. They're all pastel color, even in the village.
I didn't give that so much thought until now, actually. I mean, the interesting thing is that most people immediately asked us, it's a black and white film, because when you think of historical film, there is this black and white aspect. And the color for choice, I mean, the choice for color was surely also because what we were talking about in the beginning, that it's very important that for me that the viewers are noticing that it is a construction from the present about the past. It's not trying to go back in time and show something how it was, but it's created now with people from now, and also by this hopefully talking about our present with the detour over the past. And those colors you were describing, they just sneaked into the film maybe by themselves.
Okay. And being a construction, Clara, for you was more a pleasure or a problem acting in old dress, also moving? I think this is also part of the beauty of the film. People move not the way they move nowadays. So
I think it was a great pleasure to get a costume, to get in this constructed world, helped me especially a lot to emphasize the fact that we are in a reality, but not in the present. For me, it was extremely helpful in the daily routine to get into a costume, to get into a place where I've never been, but suddenly you're like contextualized, but still you're not, because we spent time in places that didn't look at all as it would look in the film now, since it was constructed. So there are like modern buildings next to us, and we pretend to be in the 19th century.
That's cinema.
But this was part of the pleasure, yes.
That's the trick. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the journey to Switzerland back in the 19th century, and we are waiting for you in Berlin in a week or so.
Thank you so much, Carlo. Looking forward to see you all.
Thank you very much.
Ciao.
Bye-bye, ciao.
Bye.
Bye-bye, ciao.